Think like a philosopher. Master critical thinking in 15 minutes. Have you ever wondered how to spot a bad argument or make sense of a confusing world? In the next 15 minutes, we're going to unlock the secrets of thinking like a philosopher, and trust me, it's going to change how you see everything. Welcome to episode 3 of our 10-part Philosophy Basics series, where we dive into the art of critical thinking, a skill that's not just for philosophers but for anyone who wants to navigate life with clarity and confidence. If you've been with us so far, you know philosophy is all about asking big questions and chasing truth. Today, we're going to equip you with the tools to think sharper, question smarter, and live wiser. Let's jump right in. So, what is critical thinking? At its heart, it's the ability to analyze information, evaluate arguments, and make reasoned judgments. It's like being a detective for truth, sifting through claims, evidence, and assumptions to get to the core of what's real. Unlike everyday thinking, which might rely on gut feelings or snap judgments, critical thinking is deliberate, systematic, and grounded in logic. It's about asking, why should I believe this? Or what's the evidence? Instead of just accepting things at face value. And the best part? You don't need to be a genius or have a philosophy degree to do it. Critical thinking is a skill anyone can learn, and it's incredibly powerful in a world overflowing with information, misinformation, and opinions. Let's start with why critical thinking matters. Imagine you're scrolling through social media, and you see a post claiming, "This new diet will make you lose 20 pounds in a week." Your first instinct might be to share it or even try it. But a critical thinker pauses and asks, what's the evidence for this claim? Who's behind this post? Are there studies backing it up? Or is it just hype? This simple habit of questioning can save you time, money, and maybe even your health. Or think about a heated debate with a friend over something like politics or morality. Instead of just arguing your side, critical thinking helps you understand their perspective, spot flaws in their reasoning, and build a stronger case for your own view. It's not about winning, it's about getting closer to the truth. Critical thinking also makes you a better decision maker. Life is full of tough choices. Should you take that job, end that relationship, or invest in that stock? By analyzing the pros and cons, evaluating risks, and questioning your assumptions, you can make choices that align with your goals and values. Plus, in a world where fake news, biased ads, and viral conspiracies are everywhere, critical thinking is like a mental shield, protecting you from being manipulated or misled. It's a skill that's useful in school, work, relationships, and even just understanding yourself better. Now let's break down the key components of critical thinking. There are 3 main pillars we'll focus on today: questioning assumptions, evaluating arguments, and practicing open-minded skepticism. These are the tools philosophers use to cut through confusion and get to the heart of big questions. And they're exactly what we're going to master together. First up, questioning assumptions. An assumption is something you believe without proof, something you take for granted because it seems obvious. For example, you might assume your senses are always reliable, that your memories are accurate, or that the news you read is trustworthy. But philosophers know that assumptions can be shaky, and unexamined assumptions can lead to mistakes. This is where the Socratic method comes in, a questioning technique named after the ancient Greek philosopher Socrates, who was famous for challenging people's beliefs by asking relentless, why questions. Picture this. Socrates is walking through Athens and someone claims, justice is punishing the guilty. Socrates doesn't argue, he asks, what is justice? The person answers and Socrates follows up. Why is that just? What makes punishment just? Can punishment ever be unjust? By asking these probing questions, He forces the person to dig deeper, often revealing that their idea of justice isn't as solid as they thought. This method isn't about proving someone wrong. It's about uncovering truth by peeling back layers of assumptions. Let's try this in a modern context. Suppose you hear a politician say, "We need to cut taxes to boost the economy." Sounds reasonable, right? But a critical thinker asks, why do tax cuts boost the economy? What evidence supports this? Are there cases where tax cuts don't work? What assumptions are baked into this claim? Like the idea that economic growth is always good, or that everyone benefits equally from tax cuts. By questioning these assumptions, you start to see the bigger picture. Maybe the policy isn't as straightforward as it seems, or maybe it favors certain groups over others. This skill is incredibly practical. Think about your own life. Maybe you assume you need a certain job to be happy, or that a particular relationship is meant to be. Questioning those assumptions can open up new possibilities. What if happiness doesn't depend on that job? What if that relationship isn't as healthy as you think? By challenging what you take for granted, you gain clarity and freedom to make better choices. Let's move on to the second pillar, evaluating arguments. In philosophy, an argument isn't a shouting match. It's a structured set of statements designed to support a conclusion. For example, Premise 1. All humans are mortal. Premise 2. Socrates is human. Conclusion. Socrates is mortal. This is a simple, valid argument because if the premises are true, the conclusion must be true. But not all arguments are so clear-cut, and that's where critical thinking comes in. To evaluate an argument, you need to check two things: validity and soundness. Validity is about structure. Does the logic hold together? If the premises are true, does the conclusion follow? Soundness goes further. It asks whether the premises are actually true. Let's look at a flawed argument. Premise 1. All birds can fly. Premise 2. Penguins are birds. Conclusion. Penguins can fly. This argument is valid because the structure is logical. If all birds can fly, and penguins are birds, then penguins should fly. But it's not sound because the first premise is false. Penguins, as we know, waddle rather than soar. Here's a more complex example. Premise 1. Social media causes mental health issues. Premise 2. Teenagers use social media. Conclusion. Teenagers' mental health issues are caused by social media. This sounds plausible, but let's evaluate it. Is the first premise true? Some studies suggest a link between social media and mental health, but others show mixed results. What about other factors, like school pressure or family dynamics? The argument might be valid, but its soundness depends on the evidence. A critical thinker digs into those studies, checks their methodology, and considers alternative explanations. This skill is crucial in everyday life. You're constantly bombarded with arguments. Ads telling you to buy something, politicians pushing policies, friends convincing you to try a new trend. A critical thinker doesn't just nod along. They ask, what are the premises? Is the logic solid? Is the evidence reliable? For instance, an ad might claim, this product will change your life. But what's the evidence? Are there testimonials, studies, or just flashy marketing? By evaluating arguments, you avoid falling for weak claims and can articulate your own views more convincingly. Let's practice with a quick exercise. Suppose someone says, you shouldn't eat meat because it's bad for the environment. Break it down. Premise 1. Meat production harms the environment. Premise 2. Eating meat supports meat production. Conclusion. Eating meat is bad for the environment. Now evaluate. Is the first premise true? Research shows livestock farming contributes to greenhouse gas emissions, so there's some evidence. But is it the whole story? What about sustainable farming practices? Is the logic valid? Yes, if meat production is harmful, and eating meat supports it, the conclusion follows. But a critical thinker might ask, are there other ways to reduce environmental impact without giving up meat entirely? This exercise sharpens your ability to analyze and respond thoughtfully. Now let's explore the third pillar, open-minded skepticism. Skepticism in philosophy doesn't mean rejecting everything or being a cynic. It means holding beliefs lightly, ready to revise them if new evidence comes along. The philosopher David Hume was a master of this. He argued that we can't be certain of things like cause and effect. Just because the sun rises every day doesn't prove it will rise tomorrow. This sounds extreme, but it's a reminder to stay humble and curious, never assuming you've got the final answer. Open-minded skepticism is especially valuable today. We're surrounded by claims, news headlines, social media posts, even scientific studies. A skeptic doesn't dismiss them outright, but asks for evidence. Take a viral post claiming, "This supplement cures all diseases." A skeptic says, "Show me the data. Are there clinical trials? What do experts say?" This isn't about being negative. It's about protecting yourself from false promises and staying open to genuine discoveries. Let's apply this to a real-life scenario. Imagine you're at a family gathering and someone says, "Climate change is a hoax." Instead of arguing, a critical thinker with open-minded skepticism responds thoughtfully. First, question the assumption. Why do they think it's a hoax? Is it based on distrust of scientists or specific evidence? Next, evaluate their argument. What's their reasoning? Do they have data, or is it just a feeling? Finally, stay skeptical but open. Could there be some truth to their concerns, like overhyped predictions? Or is the evidence for climate change overwhelming? This approach doesn't just diffuse tension, it leads to deeper understanding. Why do these three pillars, questioning assumptions, evaluating arguments, and open-minded skepticism, matter so much? Because they're the foundation of philosophical thinking, and they have real-world impact. Critical thinking helps you navigate a world of noise, from fake news to biased opinions. It makes you a better problem solver, whether you're tackling a work project or a personal dilemma. It also fosters intellectual humility, helping you admit when you're wrong and learn from others. In short, it's a superpower for living a thoughtful, intentional life. Let's dig a bit deeper into how philosophers use these skills. Take the concept of questioning assumptions. This isn't just about doubting everything. It's about identifying what's foundational to your beliefs and testing it. For example, many people assume happiness comes from wealth or status. A philosopher might ask, why do we think that? Is there evidence that wealth guarantees happiness? Studies show that beyond a certain income, more money doesn't increase life satisfaction. So maybe the assumption needs rethinking. This kind of questioning can lead to profound shifts in how you live. Evaluating arguments is equally powerful. Philosophers are trained to spot logical fallacies, common mistakes in reasoning that undermine arguments. One example is the ad hominem fallacy, where someone attacks the person instead of their argument. If a politician says, "My opponent's tax plan is terrible," and the response is, "Well, they cheated on their taxes," that's an ad hominem. It doesn't address the plan's merits. Another fallacy is the slippery slope, where someone claims one action will lead to a chain of disasters without evidence. For instance, if we allow this law, soon we'll lose all our freedoms. Critical thinkers demand proof for each step in that chain. Open-minded skepticism ties these skills together. It's not about being contrarian, but about balancing belief and doubt. Philosophers like René Descartes took skepticism to the extreme, doubting everything except his own existence. I think, therefore I am. While you don't need to go that far, a touch of skepticism can keep you grounded. For example, when a new scientific study makes headlines, a skeptic checks the sample size, methodology, and funding sources before accepting the findings. This ensures you're not swayed by flashy claims, but remain open to solid evidence. Let's explore a historical example to see these skills in action. In the 17th century, people assumed the Earth was the center of the universe. Philosophers and scientists like Galileo Galilei questioned this assumption, evaluated the arguments for and against it, and practiced skepticism toward traditional authorities. Their critical thinking led to the heliocentric model, revolutionizing our understanding of the cosmos. This shows how philosophical tools can challenge dogma and drive progress. Now let's bring it back to your life. Imagine you're faced with a moral dilemma. Should you tell a friend a hard truth that might hurt them? Question the assumption. Is honesty always the best policy, or are there exceptions? Evaluate the arguments. On one hand, truth builds trust. On the other, sparing their feelings preserves the relationship. Practice skepticism. Is your instinct to tell the truth based on habit, or is there evidence it's the right choice here? By applying these skills, you can make a reasoned decision rather than acting on impulse. Critical thinking also enhances your communication. When you question assumptions, you listen better, understanding others' perspectives before responding. When you evaluate arguments, you articulate your own views clearly, avoiding logical traps. And when you practice skepticism, you stay open to feedback, making conversations more productive. This is especially useful in debates, negotiations, or even casual chats where misunderstandings can arise. Let's address a common objection. Isn't critical thinking just overcomplicating things? Some people say, why question everything? Just go with your gut. But gut feelings can be wrong, influenced by biases or incomplete information. Critical thinking doesn't mean paralyzing yourself with doubt. It means making decisions with clarity and confidence. It's like checking a map before a road trip. Sure, you could just drive, but a quick check saves you from getting lost. Another objection is that critical thinking is too academic, only for philosophers or scholars. Not true. Critical thinking is for everyone. A parent deciding on a school for their child uses it to weigh options. A worker analyzing a business proposal uses it to spot risks. Even a teenager choosing what to believe online uses it to avoid scams. Philosophy makes these skills accessible, turning everyday decisions into opportunities for wisdom. Let's wrap up with some practical tips to start thinking like a philosopher today. First, practice questioning one assumption each day. It could be small, like, why do I always buy this brand? Or big, like, why do I value this goal? Write down your thoughts and see where they lead. Second, analyze one argument you encounter. Maybe a news article or a friend's opinion. Break it into premises and conclusion, and check its logic and evidence. Third, embrace skepticism in small doses. Next time you hear a bold claim, pause and ask, what's the proof? These habits will sharpen your mind over time. As we close, think about this. Philosophy isn't just about answering life's big questions. It's about asking them better. Critical thinking is your toolkit for doing that. It's not about being perfect or knowing everything. It's about being curious, rigorous, and open to growth. In our next episode, we'll travel back in time to explore the history of philosophy and meet the thinkers who shaped these ideas. If you're excited to keep learning, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. And here's a challenge. Drop a comment with one assumption you're ready to question in your life. Thanks for joining me on this journey, and I'll see you in episode 4.